The May meeting of the Board of Aviation Commissioners. Start with roll call.
Bachman.
Here.
Davin.
Here.
Booyan.
Here.
Morrison. Here. Webb.
Here.
Approval of minutes from last month.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right on to opening bids for snow removal.
And it seems you can close the opening of bids for snow removal.
Okay. Very good.
Despite Bill and I's best efforts, there was still no response apparently.
Yeah, okay. Okay, on to the engineer's report.
Thank you. I have a strong feeling of deja vu.
So do we.
Yes, it appears that we will again Bill and I have to convene and come up with another strategy to get a response for the snow removal equipment. So, more to come on that later, but I did prepare the engineer's report in Curtis's stead for this month. Curtis was traveling overseas at a client and was getting back, I think, late last night, so he probably wouldn't be in the best position to show up, so I gallantly and eagerly said I can come and speak to you fine folks. So, looks like he still has the infrastructure grant AIP 26 on his report here, but again, until the parallel taxiway starts, when Michiana brings their concrete, there's really no action on that yet, but it is our intention to have Michiana look at the spalling concrete, and then when they bring the concrete out for their work, they'll have some to cap that. At least that's the plan. Moving on to the parallel taxiway, we are getting closer to that last week of May when Milestone has targeted to mobilize and get started. I have not heard of anything to the contrary for that, so as of to date, that is still the plan. Bill and I had an online meeting in which the impact to the runway will be when we rough in the earthwork to put the connectors in. When they're working on the mainline parallel taxiway, they'll be outside of the safety areas and the runway can remain active. But we have two connectors, what we're calling A3 and A4, roughly a third down the runway from each end. Have to fill in dirt there. Whenever we work within 250 foot of the runway, we do have to have that closed. So we're going to try to do that first and get out of the way, and then they can do the bulk of the work with the runway. So, don't know if you recall, but there was a NOTAM canceling your night straight in and your circling approaches to 28 because of a obstacle to what we call TERPs, or terminal area procedures. The runaround was that there's some language that said that they can be mitigated by a visual guidance that's provided by the Papio Devassis out there. So there was several months where that route was being pursued. It looked promising, and then basically the FAA says, well, that's at our discretion, and we don't feel like doing it. So we actually want the ground to be lowered off to the side to resolve that situation. I did a little rough calculations, and it's quite the area. It's about 3 feet of ground that would need to be cut quite extensively on the south side. So this is one of the things that while Milestone is out doing earthwork for the parallel taxiway, is there a chance to get that work added to that parallel taxiway? Well, I figured it's between $60,000 and $80,000. So I need to discuss this further with Milestone, and I talked to Bill about perhaps the city chipping in and perhaps either donating some equipment or actually having a little bit of work done to try to lower that impact to the project. So details to come later, but we are working to resolve that situation.
So you're saying it's 3 feet of elevation?
The ground's 3 feet too high.
Yeah. And how big of an area?
Oh,
100 feet, 200 feet?
Probably about
basically
100 feet.
from the displaced threshold to the end of the paved area. It's about 300 feet in length, about 200 feet off the end of the runway, so 300 by 200.
What's that do for, I mean, what's it gonna look like? A pond? Is it gonna be
Right now, it's
low
lower,
ground?
right?
Well, yeah, right now it's higher, so
just
we're
level
going to
it.
attempt to level it out. It shouldn't do anything different to the drainage.
Biggest issue is, we're talking about going 100 feet out into the field that's already been planted.
This is one of the most frustrating things we've dealt with, because it is all, it's
And
it's
in the
made
same
up
area that
problem.
We've lowered it once before.
Yeah, it's very frustrating.
Yes,
On
Okay.
the south side and the east end?
yeah.
Is there anyone else we can go to besides straight to the FAA? Go above them in some other fashion to get a different answer or push for a different answer? 'Cause that's a lot of work to.
Not that I'm aware of. I mean, it's Flight Procedures Office. They're the ones tasked
Is there a?
to issuing the
place-
procedures, so I don't know of anyone that can trump that.
Is there a place in that area to put that soil? So we don't have to haul it a distance?
I'm going to have to arrange a site meeting with the contractor, come up with some of those details.
Whether we could push it off and level it out?
Well,
No.
what I
On
am.
my ground.
Yeah, what I envision is, to start with, yes, we would level it out and pile it up. But eventually, yes, we'd want that either moved to the stockpile area or hauled off. And that's where we need to bring Milestone involved, on board.
We
So
got
if
this
it's
swamp area.
discretionary that they approve it, what's their reasoning? Why do they not want to approve it? Why are they saying that other than you just don't?
I don't know why. The gentleman I'm conversing with that's given us instructions didn't provide the reason. Jimmy Hughes. So I argued several times, and he doesn't disagree with me, but he just says they don't want to mitigate it.
Can we say this time will be the last time? Or are they gonna do
You
another?
can say that. And then the NOTAM shows up again.
Yeah, right, okay.
No, I think if we attack it in a manner, I mean, theoretically, to meet the letter of what he's asking for, we could basically just create a hole, and it would probably go through, and you'd get the NOTAM removed. But then again, it's a technicality, and if something happened, then a good attorney would know that we cheated. So we want to do it right.
Okay.
Michiana has been working towards the project, a lot of assembly work and material ordering. Previously, when Curtis was here, I believe he provided you Michiana's first invoice for $71,289.61, plus reimbursement of the Hanson Engineering fee for the independent fee analysis that the FAA requires. So there was a pay request 1 against the AIP 27 that included reimbursement at least to 90 and 95%, or 90 and to 5% for Hanson and Michiana. Michiana has given me invoice number 2 for $102,536.11. Actually, they wanted a little bit more, but I knocked them down, saying I wasn't quite ready to pay for some of the work that they did. But anyways, as far as that's concerned, I come to the board this evening, I recommend, if you haven't already, approve Michiana Contracting Invoice 1 for $71,289.61, along with pay request number 1, that includes reimbursement of the grant shares of the Hanson Engineering invoice for $3,500 and that Michiana contracting invoice. Plus, I'm recommending Michiana's invoice number 2 to be approved for $102,536.11. That's included on AIP's 27 pay request 2 for those shares listed to be prepared. So I have pay request 1 for you to sign this evening. We are still preparing pay request 2 and the approval of those invoices. So that's my recommendation.
How long will it take to get the preparing done?
Whenever the grant administrator clears out their list and gets to it,
Okay.
it shouldn't be too much longer.
I move we cover invoice number, request number 1 and number 2 as submitted.
Along with the corresponding pay requests.
Yep. Second. All in favor? Aye.
Thank you. And the states. And this is the city's column.
Okay.
Is there any questions regarding?
Was that right here? Or was it the next page? Got it.
No, that's it.
Okay.
Regarding the upcoming parallel taxiway project?
I don't think so. I don't know.
How many yards do they normally get in a triaxle dump truck?
I believe it's 10 cubic yards. Because I think it weighs 20 tons, and normally soil's about 2 tons per cubic yard. And of course, as you opened up the meeting, we did not receive bids for the snow removal equipment. So nothing to take under advisement or review. And then Bill and I will share ideas and see if we try for a third time. Maybe third time's the charm. Luckily, and some of the big problems, because Victor Iniguez, who's your program manager up in Chicago, is very anxious to get this application. They want to make sure that they allocate this year's funds to the project. If you did not use your first year entitlement, or your first year of infrastructure funds, they would expire. And if you didn't get a grant application in and get bids, you would lose that money. But luckily, I just remembered as I'm sitting there talking to Bill that you used your first year's money to put in the hydraulic lift doors, so you're not in danger of losing your funding. So we do have more time to maybe solicit another type of vehicle. So, any questions? That's all I have for you. It's nice to see you again.
Do you, Mark?
Yeah, you too, Mark.
I was very rusty. I kept missing the turnoff here. I going back and forth overshooting it. I'm like, dang, I'm awful rusty.
Good thing it wasn't runway.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't pull too hard and tighten up that turn, it'll cause problems.
All right, well, thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
Open bids for advertisement. That was still listed on here. as
Oh,
action
I'm
item.
sorry.
Yeah.
I just realized that part of what I need you to do is we did do a, to support those Michiana invoices, Bill and I did review the Davis-Bacon payroll records. I have a letter in there with the review information in which this is for Michiana. They were found to be in compliance with the Davis-Bacon wage rates. So I recommend that the board accept the conclusion of compliance for Michiana's invoices 1 and 2.
I don't understand that at all. Sorry.
Since federal money is being used to pay this contractor, federal law states that they have to pay minimum prevailing wage, basically. It's a federally set wage scale for laborers, mechanics, and such. That law is called Davis-Bacon.
Gotcha.
So as part of the audit process to pay and collect federal money is we have to ensure that their employees are being paid at least the minimum it's set forth in that wage determination. And it's part of the spec book that I created for the project. It has all the different categories of labor and what they're paid and their fringe benefits.
Okay.
Part of that review is we asked the contractor to certify payroll records showing what they paid their employees working on the project. I looked over that and Bill, and we have found that it meets the minimums required. So that's what I mean by that. And State Board of Accounts requires, they don't take my word for it, and they don't take Bill's. That has to take board action to actually accept that conclusion, so to speak, that determination.
Thank you.
And there was no bids. Yeah, there's no action there.
Yeah, no bids on that. No bids.
Mhm.
This thing, I was gonna say, I would move we accept Wolcott's letter of May 13th certifying that the wages paid are in compliance with the Davis-Bacon Act.
Sorry.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right?
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, Bill?
Okay, we have repainted the threshold of runway 10, and we are tomorrow going to finish up the displaced threshold for 28, including the end of runway markers, the threshold marker, the arrows that go to the displaced threshold, and the width marking bars that are at the threshold. So we've used about $4,000 worth of materials between paint and glass bead and tape and rollers to do it. But for those of you that have flown recently and saw the threshold of 10, it looks really good. And the threshold of 28 is going to look just as good when we're done tomorrow or Thursday if we have rain tomorrow. So they've done a good job with it. And I saw a bid 6 months ago for an airport our size to have their runway repainted, and it was around $200,000. So for the $5,000 that we spend each year to keep it looking fresh and new, it really, I think, makes a big difference on how our runway looks. Our articulated lift that we purchased, we've been getting a lot of use of, and we just got new LED lights in today that we're going to be putting around the T-hangers. There's a wall pack that's going to go in front of the building on the parking area, and the more lighting for the fuel farm. And then I marked yesterday, called 811 today. We've got 18-inch sonotubes to put, one behind the mailbox and then two along the north fence of the terminal apron for mounting those light poles that are back in the back that Auto Park donated to us when they changed their lighting on their dealership. And we've got all of the LED nows that are going to get mounted to those. So that's one of our projects for the summer we're working on. When we do that, the pole that's going to go right behind the mailbox will have two light panels facing the terminal apron, but then we'll have one on the parking lot as well. So with a new panel that we'll put that's on the building, replacing one of the old lights, and that one, our parking lot's going to be lit up a lot better than it has been in the past too. So, and then of course adding lights to the north side of the terminal apron. The terminal apron's going to be lit up a lot better than it had been also. We had found with the work that we were doing with the new cameras, removing some of the old wiring, Joe took pictures of the welds where they welded in the new header for the new door that went in. And to our appearance, the welds don't look very substantial. We forwarded that to Strebig. Strebig has responded several times, and the last response was a phone call last week that they made to me that they are hoping to get out this week yet to inspect with one of the engineers to let us know if it's enough of a weld that by the requirements for the drawings or not. So another good thing that the articulated lift brought us was being able to inspect some things. My seasonal help has started. He was one of our students from 2 years ago in the CTE program, great student. Local Plymouth kid. He's going to Bowling Green of Ohio. He's going to be a junior this year, and Bowling Green requires their students to do some type of internship that is related to their field of study. So him being at the airport, his internship, they actually consider it a summer semester. That starts on the 19th and runs through the beginning of August. So he not only is going to help us with some of these projects we're doing, has more flight knowledge than Joe and I now with him being instrument rated and working on his multi, but he'll also get college credit for it towards his graduation. He's a Giordano.
Oh, yeah.
You know Dom?
Mm-hmm.
Great kid.
Yeah.
And he's been one of the better summer helpers that I've had so far. He's you don't have to tell him twice, and you don't have to ask him to do things to instead of just standing around. He finds something to do.
That doesn't surprise me.
So yeah, he's a good kid.
Do you have to do some extra, what do you have to do to qualify for?
I have to do a mid-semester review and a final review with the college for him, and then I have to be interviewed by the college at some point during the summer.
Okay.
So they send me all the information and have someone from the college that reaches out to me to do that. So it's very minimal.
Cool.
So glad to see that I can help him on that end and also get him some experience in an airport and get good work out of him. I didn't include it in here. Gary Cleveland had 2 check rides last week, both passed. One of them was a foreign student that already had his ATP, didn't have any helicopter experience. And then since he had 2 of them the same day, he got the examiner to come to Plymouth, and they did them here at Plymouth. And then I noticed later in the day when he was done with those, he was actually doing a biannual review for one of the med-flight guys from Rochester in a turbine helicopter. So he got to knock out 3 in one day at our airport. And I know that the private check rides are $1,000 a piece, so he had a good day doing them all one place one day.
Where's he from?
I'm not sure if he comes from Fort Wayne. I know I met him quite a few years ago, and he was one of the check airmen for Beacon and does a lot of the check airman work for a lot of the med-flight people. So he does have a lot of experience. I think he might come from Fort Wayne, but I'm not sure. What else? I did this report a week ago. We're going to be, Friday is going to be our last full day of CTE students. We'll be doing our usual flower drop with a target set up on that island in between the two taxiways. Alpha Flight flying 172s. Fun day for the kids. And then next week the kids are getting ready for final exams, and I think most of my senior students, I don't expect to see them next week. I wanted to tell somebody, so I'll tell you guys, the quality of students is just unbelievable. I've got one girl that already has her private license that's going to be the valedictorian at Argus. I have a girl from Oregon Davis that got the Eli Lilly scholarship that's going to Butler. She did a visit to IU, and she said they treated her like another student. She said whereas Butler treats them like royalty, and if you go to Butler wants the Lilly scholars really bad, so they throw in room and board if you're a Lilly scholar. So she's going there for business, but then I have a young man going to Indiana State for the aviation program. I have a kid going to Lewis University just across the state line in Illinois for aviation. I have a young man going to Bowling Green for aviation management. I have a young man that has started working on his private, that wants to have his private done by next month, just started it. He's on the short wait list for the Air Force Academy. And I was told by Dan Marone that they're hurting for people, and he expects that he probably will end up with a acceptance during the summertime. Have another young man that's going to Trine for aeronautical engineering, which for us older people, Trine of course is Angola, the old Tri-State. And then I have one student that I don't know what he's going to do, and then the other two that are left of my 12 are going to stay here in Plymouth and train with Alpha Flight at least through their commercial. So I have a great class this year. And then the first year class, there is a senior in that class that's headed for a flight school in Florida. So we've turned out a lot of aviation-related students, which is great to see. And I don't know if any of you saw I saw an email last week of the robotics team flying somewhere. And
They're flying, they're going to Texas.
okay, already went.
Yeah, they just got back.
Yeah.
Captain of the airplane, when they were leaving to go down, came back and talked to him, was a Plymouth grad from 2018.
Really?
That was right before we started the program, wasn't able to get into the program.
Cool.
Wow.
So, that's all I got for now. Any questions? I'm pretty frustrated about the snow removal equipment, and even more so that approach when we thought it was done, and now we know we've got 2,000 yards of material to move.
So on that approach, do we need to get out our contract with John Langfeld to see if it has a provision for how we handle it?
I'll talk to him about it. I'll see him Tuesday or Saturday. I'm refereeing for the youth skeet tournament at Warsaw, and he's heavily involved with that, so I'll be with him all day Saturday, and I'll
Okay. Yeah, you
talk to
might
him
just
about it.
look and see if that contract has anything, just to get ahead of that, because if we go to do it, we would
Yep.
just want to kind of know, so we're not surprising him.
Well, and his big upset will be probably not so much the crop this year, but if we do what we're doing, we're going to be stripping all the topsoil off.
No crop.
He'll be more concerned about that, because then he'll never grow anything on
Well,
it.
and that's-
Unless if we strip it and then put it back, and that's a whole lot more work yet, so.
Well,
Well, I know that might actually be cheaper than hauling it somewhere else.
That would be his request, I know that.
yeah,
Just roll the
Already.
topsoil to the side and take the bottom out and roll it back.
even more reason to probably look and see what that contract says, just so
Yep.
he's not surprised, we're not surprised.
Right.
You know.
Yeah, I know I'll have some time with him Saturday, and I'll talk to him about it a little bit to get it started.
I know at some point we left, I mean, I assume, no, I covered the bases as far as we weren't locked in, but I think it was if they can, I mean, that came up, and we talked about that
Yeah,
before
I
with,
don't think we're looking for him to.
I know where we've got the stockpile now. He was concerned about that he'll never be able to farm that again because of that stockpile he's never going to be able to find the topsoil again, and that stuff that's stockpiled it won't grow grass in my yard, so I know it's not very good. So, anything else, anybody?
When's the runway supposed to be opening back up?
They're only going to close it like a day at a time during the day when their equipment's out
So
near
the
that.
27th will be closed just for a day or two? and then-
I don't think they'll close it until the 2nd. They're just planning to bring the equipment out that
Well,
week.
obviously, if the weather's like it is today, I'm hoping they're not gonna start and try to do earthwork during the rainy parts. But,
Well, I mean, for the taxiway, for where they're putting the cans.
They told me they weren't going to come out, they were going to bring the equipment out the last week, they weren't going to start until the 2nd.
Okay.
But they're also putting it on me to do the closures, and they don't intend to, when they close it, they're not closing it overnight, so it'll be closed during the day when they're working on it, they'll move the equipment back, we'll open it back up. So 3 o'clock in the afternoon seems to be when most of them are quitting, so by that time we should have it open back up. But I'm the one that'll be entering the NOTAMs for it, so I'll be able to give you a heads up.
If I had to guess, it'll probably be a week of date closures to get that roughed in there.
Okay.
Then, of course, when they start paving, they'll have to be there, and they'll start over when the paver and stuff is paving up against the runway.
And when they give me the times as to when they need it closed, I'll send you a text message and let you know how early in the morning they'll be starting. So if you guys are headed somewhere, you can maybe get out before that. And they sounded like they would work around that a little bit with people as they needed to come and go.
Sure. Okay.
Yeah, if there is a important flight, then there certainly can be what we call a prior permission basis. Like, we're on approach, we'll be there in 20 minutes. They could certainly take their dozer and,
Move out the,
I have seen NOTAMs that said you needed a 15-minute
yeah,
approval.
sure,
so it's not like you're dead in the water.
sure. Okay.
We
Oh,
wouldn't
yeah.
want anyone doing touch and goes.
Does everybody else already know about the flight school? We talked about it over the weekend.
About lift?
Thank you.
No, because we're all kind of waiting to see what's going to happen.
Okay.
There's been some developments with Culver's summer camp. In the past, the students that come from out of the country come on a tourist visa, and the FAA does not allow flight training on a tourist visa. It needs to be on a different type of visa. And so now that that has finally been found out, and of course, Lift Academy is not willing to bend any rules, as they shouldn't, so it's been put back on those mostly Spanish parents to figure out what they're going to do, since a lot of them do have some pretty good connections on what they're going to do for visas so their kids can flight train, because they're the ones that usually buy 10 and 15 hours. And the flight training amount this year has been raised considerably because Lyft has figured out what it's cost them. And so they're the ones that would be able to afford it if they were going to do it. So we're still waiting to see what's going to happen with all that. May end up being a pretty small flight summer for Culver in the aviation program.
I was looking at the grounds report here, and it says running low on light supplies. We gotta hold out till the new lights are in?
Well, the new lights are going to be LEDs, and we'll still have the old incandescents. So I have been talking with Randy Longenecker quite a bit lately, and he told me that he had a pretty good supply of the old stuff, that he would go through and see what they had and see about getting it over to me, because it's stuff they're not going to use anymore. The bulbs we're starting to get low on, we can still get those, but I broke off my first one mowing that I've broken off in 8 years a couple weeks ago, and the wires that connect it after it breaks off. It's a plug that pulls out and goes up to the head of the light. I guess I damaged that as well, and Joe told me we only had 1 or 2 of them left. So it's stuff like that that might be hard to get because of it not being used anymore. But waiting to see what Randy comes up with for me before I start digging into buying new stuff. But we are going to need some new stuff to, as long as we have those old incandescent lights.
There was, if I remember right, they were talking about with the lighting project, running it over to the runway so that way it's at least that part's done for if we replace that in the future.
Actually, in
remembering that
2015, when they repaved and widened the runway, they had to move some of the lights. And Randy told me that a lot of times when they do lighting projects, it's because the wiring has gotten old, and they put on all new wiring in 2015 when they did that. So our wiring is good for whenever they decide to do something different, if we need to. But in the meantime, our wiring and everything is good for what we have now.
Can those lights be changed to LED?
I don't know
slowly, or
that. I don't know that process.
Yes, not, you can, I've heard there's what they call conversion kits. I haven't heard of anyone successfully installing them. Most likely it will be removing the old fixtures and transformers and putting in new fixtures and transformers. So yes, you can use the existing wiring and base cans and put new fixtures on. And Randy Longenegger would know more if they actually have a good LED conversion kit for the fixtures you have.
I did skip over number 3 on here, the lighted wind cone. During some of those high winds that we had, it blew one of the lights off of it. And that's why we're down now to 2 lights on that lighted wind cone, and we have to have at least 3 to pass inspection this summer. So I did talk to the state last year that does the inspection about the condition that it's in and needing to rework it. And they said that if I needed to take it down, all I needed to do was enter a NOTAM that it was in op, and I'd be okay while we were doing that. And that's one of the projects we're getting ready to do here in the next couple of weeks, is start disassembling it so we can get it cleaned up and powder coated and try and get the lighting on it figured out, because we had problems with the 4th light on it a year ago, and Michiana came out and had difficulty with it and just took the 4th light off. So normally it's 4 lights, that way if you burn a bulb out, you still have the 3. So as it is, I've had to keep a pretty close eye on the 3 and make sure they're always working, and now with one of them blown off from those winds, we're kind of in a spot where something's got to be done with it. So, now I'm done.
Except the grounds inspection and the financials.
Motion approved.
All in favor?
Right?
Jeff, anything? Any other business from anybody?
I just have a question.
Yes.
Is this the night they're going to bring up some storage buildings on Michigan Road? I got notice in the mail that
No.
I'm
Probably
just a concerned
the
neighbor.
Plan Commission BZA meeting, that'll be the first Tuesday of the month. This is Aviation
Okay,
board tonight.
okay.
I don't remember. What is the first?
Maybe I'll probably get that notice. I got a couple notices before, and then they said tonight at 7 o'clock, and it doesn't sound like that's what's going on.
No,
It's Marshall
not
County.
tonight.
Okay.
Is that Marshall County?
Could be, is it the Marshall County Plan Commission BZA?
We haven't sent out anything.
We're out of Michigan.
Where's
It's
it
on
located?
Michigan Road, out by the Triway Drive-In.
Yeah, that's
Oh, yeah.
Marshall County.
that's county.
So that's the wrong building.
So
That's the wrong
it
building?
might be the right night, but you're in the wrong place.
Okay.
You need to go to the county building across from the courthouse.
I know where it's at. I've been up there.
Yep.
Sorry.
It's just a little after 7, so you got time.
Sorry, I interrupted you.
Thanks.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye, 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 aye.
Bill's email can check.
Joe